Silence is not weakness, and it is not maturity either. When someone goes quiet after being hurt, most people misunderstand what just happened. They assume restraint. They assume emotional depth. They assume self-control. What they are actually witnessing is a psychological freeze response, not a choice. And freeze is never neutral. This is not about being introverted, not about being too sensitive, not about morals, values, or emotional intelligence. And it is not about kindness. Silence in moments of emotional impact is not a personality trait. It is a reaction to perceived threat. The brain is not processing meaning. It is managing risk. When something touches a nerve, the nervous system scans one question first. Am I safe right now? Not physically, psychologically. The silence appears when the mind detects potential loss of control, loss of status, loss of self-image, or loss of emotional leverage. Speech requires clarity. Clarity requires stability. When emotional pain hits, stability collapses for a moment. The mind halts outward expression to prevent further damage. This is not reflection. It is containment. Silence is the brain buying time, not to understand, but to avoid exposure. Here's where most people lose power without realizing it. They assume silence creates mystery. They assume it signals strength. They assume it protects them. It doesn't. Unexplained silence hands control of interpretation to the other person, and perception always fills a vacuum, usually against you. The alternative is not talking more, and it is not emotional honesty. The alternative is frame stability. Power is not volume. It is not expression. It is the ability to remain internally unaffected while externally readable. Strategic individuals do not rush to speak, but they also do not disappear. Their internal stance is simple. Nothing said here defines me. They do not freeze because their identity is not under negotiation. They do not defend because defense signals threat. They do not withdraw because withdrawal concedes territory. They remain present, calm, legible, not reactive, but not opaque. Silence becomes power only when it is chosen, not triggered. Strategic individuals do not rush to speak, but they also do not disappear. Their internal stance is simple. Nothing said here defines me. They do not freeze because their identity is not under negotiation. They do not defend because defense signals threat. They do not withdraw because withdrawal concedes territory. They remain present, calm, legible, not reactive, but not opaque. Silence becomes power only when it is chosen, not triggered. Silence is often a reflex, not a decision. Silence often happens before you even realize you're hurt. Your mouth closes faster than your thoughts. When emotional pressure appears, the brain doesn't ask what you want to say. It asks whether speaking will cost you something. Status, control, self-image. If the cost feels unclear, speech is suspended, not delayed, blocked. This is why silence feels involuntary. You don't choose it. It happens to you. The nervous system treats emotional impact like a sudden loss of footing. When balance is gone, movement stops. Words are movement. People assume silence means restraint or depth. In reality, it's a system overload. Your mind is busy scanning outcomes. How will this sound? How will it be used? What does it reveal? When there are too many unknowns, expression shuts down entirely. Silence is not reflection. Reflection comes later. Silence is containment, a way to reduce risk by reducing output. Only after the brain rebuilds a sense of safety does language return. Not stronger, not wiser, just available again, because silence was never a decision. It was the absence of permission to speak. People go quiet when they don't know how they are being perceived. The fastest way to silence someone is to make them unsure how they look in your eyes. Uncertainty shuts the mouth faster than fear. When people don't know how they are being perceived, the mind loses orientation. They can't tell if they are respected, judged, dismissed, or misunderstood. And without that information, speech becomes risky. Every word is a signal. Every signal shapes how others see us. When perception is unclear, the brain pauses expression to avoid miscalculation. This silence is not about emotion, it's about positioning. The mind starts running silent questions. Am I coming off weak, defensive, exposed, wrong? With no clear feedback, the safest move becomes stillness. People go quiet because they can't adjust their behavior without a reference point. They don't know which version of themselves is being observed, so they stop offering data. No tone, no opinion, no reaction. This reduces the chance of being misread. Silence, in this moment, is not confidence. It's a holding pattern. The brain waits for signals, facial cues, tone shifts, reactions, anything that clarifies the social frame. Once perception becomes clear again, speech returns, not because the person found courage, but because uncertainty finally dropped below a tolerable level. Silence is a signal that something landed deeper than expected. Silence doesn't mean nothing happened. It means something hit deeper than the system was ready for. When words suddenly disappear, it's not because the moment was small. It's because the impact went past the surface level. The brain prepares responses for familiar situations, predictable comments, expected criticism, known emotional territory. But when something lands deeper than expected, those scripts fail. The remark, look, or tone doesn't just register, it penetrates. It touches identity, insecurity, memory, or self-worth, and the mind pauses because it needs to reassess what just changed. Silence appears at the exact point where meaning becomes unstable. This is not about being offended. It's about unexpected relevance. The nervous system flags the moment as significant, too significant for fast language. Speech requires alignment between emotion, thought, and self-image. When that alignment breaks, expression shuts down. People go quiet because the hit rearranged something internally, a belief, a boundary, a sense of position. The mind needs time to understand where it now stands. Silence is the processing gap between impact and integration, not weakness, not strategy, a recalibration. Once the internal shift settles, words return. Different words, careful words, or sometimes no words at all, because the silence marked the moment something changed deeper than planned. People fall silent when they feel psychologically exposed. Silence shows up the moment someone feels seen a little too clearly. Exposure doesn't need words, it needs recognition. Psychological exposure happens when something private becomes visible, not secrets, patterns, motives, weak points. The moment a person realizes they are being read, their behavior changes, speech slows, tone disappears, then silence. Talking requires a sense of cover, a feeling that you can control what others take from you. When that cover drops, every word feels risky. Each sentence might confirm what the other person already noticed. So the system pulls back. This is not shame, it's defense. Silence limits how much information leaks out. No extra signals, no emotional clues, no confirmation. People fall silent because they no longer feel protected by their usual roles: confident, competent, in control. Psychological exposure removes the mask without asking permission. The mind reacts by reducing output: less movement, less expression, less presence. This creates the illusion of strength, but internally, it's about containment. Once the person feels covered again, misunderstood, redirected, or less visible, speech returns. Not because the danger passed, but because exposure dropped below a critical level. Silence was the alarm.